All right, General Greene here, God bless. Today I'm going to talk about the transition into the new epoch, the new age of society, what the elites have decided, and how they're running a data mining central nervous system operation worldwide. It's a simulation, and that's what happened in 2020. So pay attention, like and share, enjoy this beautiful hike at high altitude near sea level with General Greene. So population control is now necessary. It always has been, but with exponential growth and what they believe is limited finite resources, they must reorganize all countries, all populations. They must do that with your body, with what we experienced in 2020, with your money, with your finances, but most importantly, real wealth, which is world resources, air, water, food, the energy from the sun, etc. And so the elites and the establishment always create a system and institutions to enslave their target populations, to serve them, to feed their narrative. We see this specifically with various ideologies: communism, Nazism, democratic constitutional republics like we have in the United States of America, socialism, etc. Each specific ideology or each specific government, whether or not it's China, the United States, Russia, or Uzbekistan, is going to serve the interests of its leadership and of the established order. Now, what's tricky about what's happening now, because of the advent of democratization of technology and the fact that decentralized algorithms are much in control of the world, the elites have had to figure out a much more specific way to organize soon to be 10 billion people around the world. So how are they going to do that? Well, they're going to have to get super aggressive, which is why they did 2020, because it changed the paradigm formation of what exactly the world would look like. For example, if AI, robots are taking over, if technology can do the jobs, the monotonous jobs that are no longer needed, like self-driving cars, manufacturing, building of homes. So for example, 3D printers will be able to print these homes and cities of the future autonomously. This is also how Elon Musk, although I don't believe it, is planning on building the future civilization of Mars. Okay? So the entire way of thinking, as we once knew it, has shifted. The entire state of being is completely different than it's ever been before. So let's look at this logically for a minute. We all knew that the central bank and the Federal Reserve, it's been bankrupt now for years. We all know that they can't pay back their debt. This was the common theme when I first started Greenwave at AMTV 20 years ago, about 20 years ago. And I told you, instead of paying things back, which they were never going to do, instead of getting their house in order and paying off the debt, they would simply break the system and establish a new one, which is exactly what they've done. Voila, rabbit out of a hat comes Bitcoin. See, that's how I knew about it. That's how I knew about blockchain. It's how I knew about these new ecosystems, like what I'm at the forefront of and have invented here at islandproject.com, and so much more, because the entire idea of how society functions, how it is normalized into the new normal, is now going to shift. And this is what people have had trouble seeing. Should have worn different shoes because it's tougher to get up this mountain without grip. But I'll do the best I freaking can right here. It's important you challenge yourself every single day. So this is where we're headed. This is the new system of government and power. Microchips, mineral rights, mining operations, and machines will be the essential new president or government system and power of the future, which it already is. Companies like Palantir, which I recommended, which 1000x'd from their IPO, I knew that they would take over the world for a reason, because the new entities running things are not humans. They're computers. They're language learning models. So here's what I want you to think about. The elites craft a system that serves them of disproportionate wealth and power. Keep in mind, I'm a capitalist, but I'm not a crony capitalist. The capitalism we currently have is crony capitalism of bailouts, interest rate cuts, heavy manipulation, usury of the central banks, fractional reserve banking, which should be, in my opinion, illegal. If you deposit money into a bank and they lend it out 10 times, that shouldn't be allowed. But it's how our system works. And so they create an artificial scarcity. And again, this is how you enslave people and cultures, is through a monetary system. So I've given you this example. Say you put 1,000 people on an island like this, and you give them $1 billion, but no resources, no food, air, water, access deer to hunt, no fish, no sunlight. What do they have? Nothing. They have an absolute fraud. They'll perish, which proves my point, and many have thought this point before through various different philosophical, ideological thinking, is that without world resources or a resource-based economy, you actually have nothing. So I want you to step out of the box here for a minute. Come along with me for a minute and understand that money is infinite, money is abundant, and the only real wealth actually on this planet is not fiat currency. It's not even Bitcoin. It's energy and resources. And I would argue human intellectual power. I'm reading a great book right now on morphic resonance. I believe his first name is Rupert Sheldrake. And he talks about the fact that memories aren't stored, this is his theory, in the brain at all. It's not in a computer. It's not in a data storage system. It's not in the cloud. It is actually metaphysical. And in fact, species know this, and instinctually, just how our cells reproduce, how an embryo forms, how cells divide and then multiply. There's something in that genetic code. But more importantly, the collective consciousness that Carl Jung talked about, which allows us to know across our species, human beings, which are very special, which is why you do not want to merge with robots or take the mark of the beast or brain chips or biologicals, that we understand and can actually tap into the universe, so to speak, of previous forethought, of experiences, right? Our natural instincts when things feel off, or fear, or memories from our ancestors, or the recognition of the archetypes of thousands of years ago. And so I want you to think about things a little bit differently moving forward, because understand that the elites have built these new systems. They have built artificial intelligence and robots, which are now speaking with themselves and among themselves in languages we don't understand. Under this general idea, under this idea that machines, in a mechanistic way, in a scientific way, in a cybernetic world, will be better off making the decisions versus all humans. Now, this is where it kind of gets a little bit, I think, flagrantly and erroneously utopian. I'm going to try to go up. This is pretty steep, actually, right now, especially with the shoes I've got on. So hold on. See if I can get up. There we go. If I roll down the mountain, I blame you guys because I'm holding a cell phone at the same time. And so this is where it kind of gets dystopian, is that in a world that is cybernetic, of a mainframe computer, so to speak, connected worldwide, makes all decisions around the world. What then happens to your freedom and liberty? I just see a red cardinal over there. Here, Uncle Cody. God bless you. Must be tuning into this message as well. What does that leave for an average human being? Will you have rights? Will you have freedom of choice? Will you have a business? Will you have wealth? And so my argument is that we are shifting dramatically into an entirely new system of human beings, of what many of you have learned to be called transhumanism, of economics, finances, and what even money is in the first place. Again, I believe that money is fake and is an illusion because it's mathematically abundant, printed from nothing into infinity through bailouts and a central bank and sovereign government. It's not backed by anything. It's fractionally reserved, etc. And so my view has always been that the only true real wealth is this. It is physical resources, and the competition for those resources, I got to get aggressive here so I don't fall, and the competition of those finite resources among people, populations, governments, corporations, etc. And so the system, the political system, keeps all of us, all of you, but you're smarter than this, indoctrinated into fake choices. Fake choices that there's a democracy when they only give you two options, Republican or Democrat. There's no real third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or out-of-the-box choice. And they give you this illusion which only serves their interests. It's like voting for a hamburger versus tacos, or saying you like tacos the best or hamburgers the best. Or if you vote for tacos, you're going to lose all your money. But if you vote for burgers, you'll have a better way of life. And so they indoctrinate all of us into this fake system, into this fake world, which again, only serves their interests. So what's really happened in 2020 and beyond was a reorganization of the entire world, a reorganization of the monetary system, a reorganization of human bodies, Internet of Things, Internet of Humans, and what they're calling digital identifications, which will be required to prove you're not a deep fake. And that is how they will propel the tyranny into the dystopia of the mark, of a biological, of logging into your social media accounts, not being allowed to buy or sell without it to prove you're not a deep fake or to prove that you're a human being. And it's always a death by 1,000 cuts, as I've said for many, many years. And so this is kind of the overwhelming, overlooking strategy of where they're taking everything. And it's really phenomenal to think about. And so I've spent most of my life, well into my early 20s, spearheading social media, e-commerce, Bitcoin development, blockchain, now acquisition. We're the largest portfolio in the world now. That's pretty incredible to think. Along with all my members of no bank debt real estate, homes, properties like these behind me in Maui, Hawaii, Big Island, Oahu, Waikiki, Park City, Utah, soon to be with international diversification exposure, building what I call a new city-state country infrastructure. One where private ecosystems formed on the foundation of an ethos, of a foundational belief, and this is what makes us very rare, is because we are a faith-based investment. We are a God-first focused entity. We are a community grounded in what? Grounded in human elevation, in working on ourselves and our own sin to be the best that we can be, what I call the 1000x rise, think and grow Bitcoin rich, think and grow Island Project rich, by changing ourselves and also the environments and the technologies of ownership, power, wealth creation, legacy building, and multi-generational systems, which is what we are. We change the entire power dynamic of the world at large. Now, there's been a lot of visionaries in the past, Leonardo da Vinci's types that have been very smart, arguably geniuses, but they've never given a solution on how to get from A to B. They've left the middle out. It is my belief, and we've already proven this with our model, our very specific proprietary model, that what we do actually commands, accesses capital, resources, an aggregation of people power and communities that no one else in the world has been able to achieve before. For example, there's been many ideas that have failed in the past. You've heard of things like various other kind of utopian ideas, projects. I don't have to name them specifically, but they've always lacked funding, capital, and an actual real world solution and strategy that made it practical in the real world. And so it only ended up on paper. It only ended up in the mind. It was an idea in a book, or it was an engineering design that never came to fruition. And this is a distinction, which is why I believe, even long after I'm gone, I believe I will live above 100 years old, just like Noah, God willing. My father's currently 70. My children, team, are all being groomed for this legacy investment and transition and leadership role in the future. But I believe that what we build, and you can see here amazing beach there right at the corner of your eye, live your investment, do it with us, is that it will not only be a legacy, but it will be a ripple that eventually turns into a tidal wave. New ecosystems, new city designs, a completely different view of the world. Folks, in order to solve the world's current problems, we must approach it from a different lens, entirely new ideas, and an entirely new frame of reference to see the big picture below us. Isn't that beautiful? It's Molokini right there. God bless you. So we have to change our perspective to understand what the future can be, how we can solve the problems currently present in the world. For example, let's be honest with ourselves. Gross inequality, poverty, hunger, violence, war, insecurity, moral degrade, collapse of civilization, no honor, corruption of family, governments, politics, just to name a few. And look, I'm not a communist. I'm not talking about a utopia. I'm talking about a different approach that equalizes, democratizes power, but more importantly, access to wealth, prosperity, longevity, health, wellness, most importantly, spirit, that no one else in the world has ever done before. Again, when you change your perspective, you can see the people down on the beach below, everything changes about how you approach the solution to the problem. Life is problems. Solutions are what you need to bring to them. Money is infinite and not real. And there is only finite resources in the real world. But abundance, and there could be arguable abundance of energy. Wow, there's a rainbow right there. Kind of tough to see. Right there on the west side of Maui with the catamarans sailing behind me, right there. Tough to see on this camera. Isn't that beautiful? That again provides abundance and provides the world that I believe that we want to build. Again, they have the empiric nature of a central bank, the cronyism of too big to fails, of very few men dictating and calling the shots. As when the Federal Reserve was first founded, I think probably could be argued was the day America died. And was it not, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Woodrow Wilson who did that. And I remember who that president was very regretful and said it was his, in fact, biggest mistake. Because by selling out the American people, selling out our democracy, selling out your freedom to this very day, the argument could be made that that was the point and pivot point of time when freedom, when life, and with liberty was forever altered. New technology is always going to increase developments, efficiencies, short-term inefficiencies during the change, as we see with AI, robots, etc. And we're in a paradigm shift now, which brings so much opportunity for you tuning in, which is why you can make so much money in this, because we're the first people to do it. We've invented it too with Bitcoin, as I recommended it under 1,000. decades ago, when your financial advisor told you not to buy it, the president called it a scam. JP Morgan Chase said it was a scam. Your friends, your family, your teachers said it was a scam. The mainstream media said it was a scam. When all of it now is being co-opted by the new system, because here's the kicker, it was always planted as a Trojan horse for all the reasons I've currently discussed and brought to your attention. Again, folks, you have to think differently. You have to understand where civilization, society, city-states are moving, how power and wealth, how the systems are changing, the economic systems, the sociological systems. But in addition to that, the behavior sets of people worldwide. In fact, behavior management is a science. They don't tell you about this, of course, in the mainstream media, but it's what they did in 2020. Notice how everyone went along and, most people complied. It's because they were manipulated behaviorally. Behaviorally is a psychotic, psychoanalytic type weapon that impregnated in the minds slogans like stay safe and, essentially we're all in this together, all things that came from that period, even though the real threat wasn't what they said it was, but the threat is actually the one I'm telling you about, which is why they're shifting people, populations, and humanity into something they can manage and control. Again, what's the first rule of overtaking a civilization? Because you see the rainbow behind me, and that is God speaking to us right now. It's right there. Right there. The first thing you do is establish a monetary system that enslaves the people, because whoever controls the monetary system has the power. Well, here's the real genius about what we've built at islandproject.com and our soon-to-be launched 1000x proprietary blockchain. You, our members, and we, and your general here, Papa John, and all 400 plus, and soon to be another additional 100 Deck 2 members, 808-442-2934, are our monetary system. We mint the currency, we create it, it's fixed, it's deflationary, and in addition to that, it directly underlying it owns real world physical assets with no bank debt, the most valuable asset and resource in the entire world. So folks, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a kind of course guide on the direction of where we are headed. As you look out through 2030, 2028, as you go out to multiple decades into the future, you can kind of see how this is playing out right now with Elon Musk's vision for future colonization, integration of people with machines, biologicals, microchips, etc. This is all part of the plan to do what? Merge Americans with machines and to eventually remove sovereignty from human beings, of which who manages and governs the new world system. They call it the new world you know what. Well, I just told you in the beginning of this video, autonomous machines that act and surveil as a central nervous system type operation and a centralized power that will make decisions by itself, for itself, and allegedly to the benefit of the American people and those of you tuning in around the world. Well, it's not going to be the utopia that they're selling you. It's not going to be universal basic high income, folks. It's not going to be complete longevity treatments and cures for cancer. Some of that, I hope, happens. And I do think that there will be some good things that come from technology, the high investment into it, and essentially some discoveries that we've not even thought about before that will come about as a result of this parabolic nature of the singularity, which I've said for years occurred somewhere between 2017 and 2019. Bottom line is, what you do now, what you do today matters. Exiting the system as it sits today, changing your perspective, and then importantly, joining like minds on the ark here at the digital Noah's Ark. I am your general. I love you guys so much. Buy the dip in Bitcoin, crypto, my top picks, RSR, my privacy coin, Litecoin. Trump coin, the meme coin, and so much more. Join us at school. And call my dad to RSVP. We launch soon at islandproject.com. Deck 2, $50 million fundraise, no bank debt, 2 to 3 additional estate homes across the Hawaiian Islands, more park, city, Deer Valley, ski mountain type lodges, and also our international diversification in parts of like Asia, as you've seen me in Thailand, Bali, Singapore, Tokyo, and surprises coming to Europe this year as we fire up the Island Project Learjet. God bless and take in the view. Links below and up here.